the phenomenal landscape full of mountains, hills, rivers, gorges, and creeks, to cities that once churned out coal, timber, and miles of railroads, the South Cumberland region is one of the most unique and interesting areas of our country. Our communities have their own identities, yet are tied together by places such as the University of the South, the Sunday School Assembly, the Mountain Goat Trail, and our awe-inspiring state parks. Located in the southeastern portion of Middle Tennessee, the South Cumberland region consists of more than 250,000 acres, most of which lie on the Cumberland Plateau. On average, the area is 1,500 to 2,000 feet above sea level. Much of the mountainous portions of the South Cumberland are forested, while over the years the coves have been cleared for agricultural uses. 3 state parks, Savage Gulf State Park, Fiery Gizzard State Park, and Head of the Crow State Park, provide scenic trails and forests to explore. After the Revolutionary War, European settlers began to move across the Appalachians and settle throughout the western territories, such as Tennessee, with cities such as McMinnville becoming a prominent area for settlers. Numerous plantations cropped up throughout the South Cumberland, and the Elk and Collins rivers were primary modes of transportation before road systems were built. European settlements began in the coves and the Collins River Valley on what would later be known as Beersheba Springs, located in the northern section of the county. Since, 9 primary communities have developed, including Pelham in 1832, Beersheba Springs in 1839, Altamont in 1848, Sewanee in 1857, Tracy City in 1858, Colony of Grootly in 1869, Monteagle in 1871, Colmont in 1904, and Palmer in 1925. The moderate climate makes the region very inviting for farming and those seeking an escape from southern heat and humidity. Many towns and communities were founded well before the counties of the South Cumberland were officially formed, such as Pelham. Pelham is situated at the base of Tennessee's South Cumberland Plateau near the headwaters of the Elk River, one of 5 major rivers in Tennessee. The community is believed to have been named for a family of early settlers. The Wonder Cave, Tennessee's second oldest show cave, provided adventure, mystery, and entertainment from 1897 to 2000.
The Wonder Cave is Pelham. My brother and them used to come from Georgia, and other brothers from Chattanooga, and they'd go inside of it. But Wonder Cave is a beautiful, beautiful place.
Today, Pelham is home to the Caverns, a world-renowned destination for underground live music and home of the Emmy-winning PBS television series The Caverns Sessions, formerly Bluegrass Underground.
Pelham was a farming community. There were several people who still walked everywhere. They didn't have vehicles. My daddy ran a service station in Pelham, and I always got into the candy and everything, and I took candy to school, and later on when I grew up, people would tell me that they thought I was rich because I had candy, and I would take them some, and that was a big deal to them. I didn't realize it was a big deal until I had several people tell me about it. I was rich, but I wasn't rich.
Beersheba Kane discovered healing waters at a spring in 1833 in the northeast section of what would become Grundy County. She believed the waters had medicinal value. Kane Spring was located along an ancient trail system known as the Chickamauga Trace, which was utilized by early indigenous people as well as peoples from the Cherokee, Chickamauga, and Creek nations.
The Indians had a trail through there, and it was known as the Indian Trace. It came through Beersheba, around through what we now know as the Stone Door.
Beersheba Springs was founded in 1839, and not long after a tavern was built by George Smart and Dr. Alfred Payne, called the Old Brown Store, nearby in 1837 to accommodate visitors and travelers to the spring. As the popularity of Beersheba grew, it caught the attention of a former slave trader, John Armfield. In 1854, he purchased 1,000 acres, the original tavern, a row of guest cabins, a proprietor's room, and residence. He enlarged the tavern into a fashionable hotel and then built 20 additional cottages. He built the luxurious Beersheba Springs Resort to overlook the Collins River Valley. The resort became well known throughout the South, featuring billiard rooms and bowling alleys, French chefs, and musical acts from New Orleans. The resort suffered from pillages and abuse during the Civil War and was closed. It reopened in the 1870s but never returned to its former glory. In 1941, the United Methodist Church acquired the hotel for conferences and group retreats. The Beersheba Springs Historic District, established in 1980, is enlisted on the National Register of Historic Places. Many of the homes in Beersheba Springs trace their origins as far back as the mid-1800s. The Beersheba Springs Historical Society runs a community museum documenting the history of Beersheba Springs. Each year, the town hosts the Beersheba Springs Arts and Crafts Festival on the grounds of the hotel. John Armfield wielded lots of influence. Episcopal bishops James Otey and Leonidas the Fighting Bishop Polk were given cottages by Armfield in an effort to influence the selection of the plateau as a site for the University of the South. Armfield's strategy worked, and the plateau was chosen to be the location of the University of the South in Sewanee.
Now, Bishop Polk came over from Beersheba on the train, the coal train, and came to Gibson Switch, which is near Sewanee. And then they had horses waiting for them, and they rode the land, and he changed his mind about having the university at Beersheba, because when he saw the springs and how many of them there were in the central area of Sewanee, he rode up to one of the largest springs and simply pronounced, "This is where the University of the South will be."
Enough settlement and development had occurred in this section of the Cumberland Plateau that residents petitioned for the formation of a new county. Grundy County, the 78th county in the state, was formed from parts of Coffee and Warren counties in 1844. The newly established county was named in honor of Felix Grundy, a distinguished attorney, congressman, senator, and member of President Martin Van Buren's cabinet. 5 commissioners were appointed, and Beersheba Springs, the only incorporated community in the county, was selected as the original temporary county seat. Situated along the route from McMinnville to Jasper was the most central geographic point of the county. Through the efforts of General Adrian Northcutt, one of the first county commissioners, the county seat was moved from Beersheba to Altamont around 1848. Court was held in a log building. Altamont's Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was built with mountain stone in 1946 by Louis Fultz. It served the congregation until a new ward was built in the 1980s. Altamont is the gateway to the Fire-Scald Creek and Big Creek areas of Savage Gulf State Park. From the Savage Gulf West trailhead, you can reach Greeter Falls, the site of the historic Long's Mill, the Greeter Homestead, and the Alum Gap Campground.
We had swimming holes everywhere. The Blue Hole was the main one that we all went to after we got off from the sawmill, and it's still in use now.
Coal was discovered circa 1845 by Benjamin Wooten on his farm in what became Tracy City. The Sewanee Mining Company was established in 1852 to explore coal mining on the plateau. In 1853, Major A.E. Barney, a civil engineer, created a spur rail link to carry coal from the mines to market, beginning in Sewanee to Tracy City, Colmont, Grootley, and Palmer. The company constructed the Mountain Goat Railroad in 1857, a.k.a. the little engine that could, due to the steep climb which connected the Nashville to Chattanooga main line in Cowan to Sewanee. The company then extended the railroad tracks 10 miles through the forest to Tracy City. Tracy City was named after financier Samuel F. Tracy from Missouri. Tracy launched the coal, steel, and iron industries in the South Cumberland. The Wooten coal mine was opened in 1858. These trains served both the coal company and carried passengers. The passenger cars stopped running in 1971, and the freight cars stopped in 1984. In 1857, the Sewanee Mining Company found coal mining unprofitable in the area now known as Sewanee, so they then offered 5,000 acres of its holdings for the establishment of a Southern university. A cornerstone and plans were started to build the University of the South. But the Civil War disrupted everything. with the Confederates initially taking control of the mine, followed by the Federals securing control of the plateau and the mine in July 1863. By the end of the war, mining operations in Tracy City were in disarray. Soon after the Civil War, the nearly bankrupt Tennessee Coal and Railroad Company, TC&R, was acquired by entrepreneur Arthur St. Clair Collier.
Tracy City was kind of the birthplace of industry when it come to the rebuild after the Civil War. And the sign coming into Tracy, it says the birthplace of the New South. That's what that means, is that Tracy City was one of the big booming industry towns after the Civil War with the steel, coal, with coal and iron.
Much of Tracy City's historic downtown traces its origin to the period of TC&R's most rapid expansion between 1875 and 1895. Impressive post-war growth in the company's stock value resulted in TC&R's inclusion in the very first Dow Jones Industrial Average for the New York Stock Exchange. At one point, Tracy City was one of the 10 largest cities in Tennessee. The town included an impressive school, the Shook School, known locally as the College. Historic businesses in Tracy City include the Dutch-Made Bakery, which first opened in 1902, the Marug Company, and Henry Fleury & Sons General Store. The coke ovens at the nearby Grundy Lakes historic area are some of the best preserved artifacts from the town's coal mining heyday. Today, the multimodal Mountain Goat Trail traces the path of the former Mountain Goat Railroad, which ran from Cowan to Palmer. A portion of the trail can be accessed at the Tracy City Roundhouse Park and continues to Sewanee today. From the Fiery Gizzard North Trailhead in Fiery Gizzard State Park, a short walk takes you to the site of a 1930s-era Civilian Conservation Corps workers' camp with an informative self-guided tour of the remaining building foundations, telling the story of the 200 young men of CCC Company 1475. Company 1475's camp superintendent, Tracy City native Herman E. Baggenstoss, had a vision for what the company could do. He mounted a fundraising campaign among Tracy City businesses to purchase 211 acres near the head of the Fiery Gizzard watershed and donated it to the state of Tennessee for use as a state forest. Herman knew that purchasing this land and donating it to the state of Tennessee was a way to protect it from logging and future development. For decades after the CCC program ended, Herman and others continued to advocate for creation of a state park. Their efforts paid off in 1978 when Fiery Gizzard State Park was created. Tracy City is surrounded by the natural attractions found in Fiery Gizzard State Park, including Foster Falls, the park's largest waterfall, world-class rock climbing at Denny Cove, and the 12-mile Fiery Gizzard Trail, rated as one of the 25 best hiking trails in the United States.
I compare me growing up here much like the Andy Griffith Show. It was we lived on our bicycles, we lived outside. There was no threat nor harm or worry about having to be anywhere outside or how long you was gone. You came out when it was, when you got out of the bed, and you didn't go back home until it was dark. And sometimes not then, until your mom come got you. Growing up in Tracy City, I can say probably I had one of the best childhoods a kid could ever have.
I think of all the places I could have raised my children, I can't think of a better place than here.
In 1866, after the Civil War ended, the construction of the University of the South was resumed. Today, the university's land holdings, known familiarly as the Domain, stretch across more than 13,000 acres, making it not only an ideal location for education and research, but also for outdoor recreation. The university's iconic stone All Saints Chapel draws visitors from around the world. The historic downtown area of Sewanee contains a number of lovingly maintained, century-old structures, as well as several options for dining and a variety of unique retail shops. Sewanee's Domain is an outstanding place for hiking and cycling, with 65 miles of hiking trails, including the Bridal Veil Falls Trail and the Shake Rag Trail, and is especially known for its spring wildflower displays in March and April. Be sure to take in the sweeping vistas of the surrounding valleys at the Memorial Cross, itself an iconic point of interest. In the mid-1800s, Switzerland was one of several European countries suffering from famine, failed crops, and overcrowding. Captain Eugene Plumacher, the Commissioner of Immigration to the United States, and Peter Staub, a Swiss immigrant living in Knoxville, purchased 15,000 acres atop the South Cumberland Plateau and advertised the area to Swiss people looking to start a new life in America. Nearly 100 Swiss families, including farmers, artisans, merchants, and professionals, arrived in Grootly in 1860 and continued until the 1920s. Swiss settler Christian Marug opened the Stagecoach Inn in Grootly for travelers along the McMinnville to Chattanooga stagecoach route. Completed circa 1884, the inn was used as a hotel, dance hall, and town meeting place. Marug also brought the European-style scythe to Tennessee, founding the Marug Company in 1873 to provide area farmers with the cutting tools they were accustomed to using in Europe. The company was moved to Tracy City in 1904. The nearby community of Lager joined Grootly, and together they became known as Grootly Lager in the 1970s. Descendants of the immigrants formed the Grundy County Swiss Historical Society that today preserves the historic Stoker Stampley Farm and Museum. Each summer, the society hosts a Swiss festival at the farm with support from the Swiss consulate in Atlanta. Christ Church in Tracy City is the oldest continuously operating Episcopal church on the South Cumberland Plateau. The appointments and surroundings were not all that could be desired, but the people gladly heard the word preached, reads the diary of the Right Reverend Charles Todd Quintard, who on August 30th, 1868, conducted Christ Church's first service. The surroundings, he described, consisted of a sawmill shed near the railroad depot. In 1873, area Episcopalians erected their own church under the leadership of Milner Jones, a seminarian at the university. Jones was followed by the Reverend Henry Easter, the congregation's first ordained priest who served from 1891 to 1896. A master craftsman, he carved the altar, bishop's chair, and other furnishings. The building was damaged severely by a storm, but miraculously, Easter's hand-carved works survived. The present church was built in 1925 and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2015. On October 5, 1952, the Father Adams Memorial Parish House was dedicated to honor the Reverend Alfonso Constantine Adams, who served Christ Church for 2 decades. Father Adams, who was also active with the Boy Scouts of America, has a campground bearing his name near Foster Falls.
We had a mayor here years ago, Ernie Walker, and he always told the group that he would be speaking to that, welcome to Monteagle, we have less. And then he would say, we have less traffic, we have less pollution, less noise, less this and that, instead of saying we have more of anything.
Monteagle's settlement history began with a 5,000-acre land grant to John Bostick in 1792. In 1853, construction began on the Mountain Goat Railroad, extending first from Cowan to Sewanee, then through what would become Monteagle and on to Tracy City. It was on this railroad in May 1870 that John Moffat, a Scottish-born temperance leader, came to the mountain. His train stop hamlet officially became known as Moffat Station in 1871, later becoming Mont Eagle, and finally present-day Monteagle, when the town was officially incorporated many years later as construction began on the first section of Interstate 24 in this area. Monteagle is home to many historic sites, stories, and people, including Al Capone, the Dubose Conference Center, the Great Eagle Caper, the Highlander Folk School, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, historic Highway 41, the Dixie Highway, the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, and the Trail of Tears. One of the more interesting and far-reaching happenings in the South Cumberland is the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly. The assembly was founded in 1882 by the Sunday School Convention of Tennessee. Modeled after the Chautauqua Institution in New York, which was the first of these assemblies, they were meant not only as a place for religious activities, such as retreats, but also as places for higher learning at a time when there were few colleges and institutes available to people. The assembly opened for its first summer session on July 17, 1883. The summer courses offered on the grounds attracted many students and teachers, as most Southern schools didn't offer summer programs. The thousands of yearly visitors soon encouraged the assembly to begin building projects, which led to the creation of many cottages, public meeting halls, and boarding houses.
Monteagle is unique because when it was founded, John Moffett, who founded the city of Monteagle, a group of people were traveling through trying to find the ideal spot for this Chautauqua to happen. And John Moffett met with them, and he saw an opportunity for the town of Monteagle to grow and bring people in and experience the mountaintop. And he actually gave the land to these gentlemen to found the Chautauqua in Monteagle. And that's how it came to be. The reason it's called the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly is because the original purpose of the assembly was to train Sunday school teachers and how to do their job better. And there were many ministers here of different denominations who were part of the faculty, so to speak, to help train these Sunday school teachers.
The World Wars and Great Depression severely hindered the revenues and popularity of the assembly, forcing it to close many cottages and discontinue many of its programs. Other such assemblies were forced to shut down during this period. It was nearly 30 years before interest returned to the assembly, leading to the restoration and refurbishing of many cottages, as well as the introduction of new programs and guest speakers. This reawakening of interest peaked in the 1980s when the assembly held its centennial celebration and was added to the National Register of Historical Places. Monteagle Sunday School Assembly is one of only 9 surviving assemblies in the United States and still receives thousands of visitors a year.
We had the railroad that came through Colmont, and one thing about Colmont was I think that was the only place that the train would stop for the traffic. The train was going to the coke ovens, and there was a big base, and the train would go up there, and they would be loaded with the coke.
In 1904, the Sewanee Fuel and Iron Company established coal mining. The Tennessee Coal, Iron, and Railroad Company established the coal mining company town of Colmont. The original town comprised approximately 100 company houses, along with a company commissary, railroad station and freight depot, barber shop, boarding houses, 2-story schoolhouse, 2 churches, a theater, and a hotel known as the Wigwam.
My dad, he was born and raised there in Colmont. I followed him around from the time I could walk. So he was always in the mining business. And the Sewanee Fuel and Iron Company bought that property, and they built the coke ovens and built a washing plant. They just about owned you. They'd pay you. You could go and draw on what you had made, but they give you what they call jingles. And you had to go down there then and spend it in their store because the other merchants there in Colmont would discount you 10%. And you couldn't afford to be discounted on what they paid. It was a good place to live. It was there wasn't nothing easy. Didn't nobody hand you anything, but we all enjoyed that.
The Colmont Bank Building, built in 1921, is on the National Register of Historic Places and is one of the oldest structures remaining in Colmont. In 2022, the Colmont OHV Park became the first city-owned off-highway vehicle park in the state, offering more than 1,300 acres of off-road fun. Big Creek Lake, just north of town, is also a popular place to paddle and fish.
There's historical pictures of a gentleman, and he had a wagon that he traveled on, and instead of being pulled by horses, it was pulled by goats. And what we now know as the junction area, as we've always called it, at the intersection of Highway 56 and 108, which was a crossing point in the county. It was popular to see him there in that area, also coming through Monteagle and going off the mountain that way also.
Palmer, originally known as Tate's Village, was incorporated in 1925 and renamed in honor of Clarence William Palmer, 1850 to 1919, who owned much of the land upon which the town was established. The area thrived during the early 20th century due to coal mining operations. Palmer is just south of the Savage Gulf East Trailhead in Savage Gulf State Park, off State Route 399. Savage Falls, the Savage Creek Cascade, several campgrounds, and many overlooks of the 500-acre Warner Old Growth Forest, one of the few areas in the southeast that was never timbered, can all be accessed from that trailhead. When coal was discovered in the middle 1800s in what would become Tracy City, it had to be tested to determine if it could be converted into coke.
Sends two of his key people to the north to study what they're doing up there, how they're converting coal into coke, and then using coke in blast furnaces to make pig iron, which is the basic ingredient in iron and steel. And they do go up there and they come back and decide they can do this, but it needs to be tested because the coal that's mined here is not the same kind of coal that's mined in Pennsylvania. That's anthracite, a better grade of coal, less water in it. This is bituminous, much more water in it. They build a test furnace to determine whether or not this will work. In 3 days, it produces 15 tons of pig iron. It is marked a success. It blows up. The blast furnace blows up after 3 days, but it proves that this bituminous coal is usable in that way. That's the beginning of what becomes the steel industry in the South.
Famous for its convict labor mining history and the lone rock coke ovens, this entire area is on the National Historic Register. From the 1870s to the 1920s, coal mining was the principal industry in this area. Grundy Lakes was donated to the state of Tennessee in the 1930s for a Civilian Conservation Corps reclamation project. Young men from Company 1475, which was based nearby, cleaned up waste from abandoned mining operations, built the dam that impounds the largest lake, and restored the area to its more natural and scenic origins. Timber became a major economic driver of the region from 1880 to 1920. Lumber mills were established and provided employment for local people. The region's 3 state parks, Savage Gulf, Fiery Gizzard, and Head of the Crow, were created over the past half-century, in large measure from some of the former timber company's holdings. In the 1880s, a grand resort hotel stood on this property. The first version of the Mont Eagle Springs Hotel burned in 1929, but was quickly replaced. The second version of the Grand Hotel met a similar fate, burning to the ground in 1950. After the second fire, the owner, John Harton, decided not to rebuild. The eagle statue stood in front of the charred remains of the hotel and was noticed by a Tennessee Polytechnic Institute student in 1952 while working a summer job in the area. TPI's mascot was also an eagle, so the student and his cohorts conspired to relocate the eagle to the TPI campus in Cookeville as part of a pep rally ahead of a big football game. 3 TPI students arrived in Monteagle on a rainy night in November of 1952 with 10 snips and whisked the eagle statue off to Cookeville, where it was unveiled at the big pep rally. Upon seeing the eagle unveiling at the pep rally, TPI President Everett Derryberry, who knew John Harton, is reported to have said, "Mr. Harton will never believe that I knew absolutely nothing about this." In 2016, the school, now known as Tennessee Technological University, made amends for the relocation by returning a full-scale replica of the eagle to Monteagle, where it now proudly sits in Harton Park. Founded in 1902 by John and Louise Bagenstos, Swiss immigrants who moved to Tennessee in the 1880s, the Dutch Maid Bakery is Tennessee's oldest family-owned bakery. The Dutch Maid was rebuilt in the 1920s after an errant ember burned the bakery, but many of the ovens, mixers, and other pieces of equipment are the same ones that have been used since then. The bakery stayed in the Baggenstoss family and extended family until 2003, at which point it was closed. Cindy Day, the executive chef and baker, bought and restored the bakery to its former glory. After purchasing the bakery in 2005, Cindy and her family reopened the Dutch Maid 18 months later, with the original spirit still intact, upholding the Dutch Maid tradition of baking from scratch. Henry and Victor Fleury moved to Tracy City from the Swiss colony in nearby Grootly in 1902 to establish a meat market. In 1905, Henry Fleury opened Henry Fleury's Staples and Fancy Groceries, now known as Henry Fleury and Sons Grocery. That store burned in 1915 but was soon rebuilt on the same site. Until trucks came along, stock was delivered by horse and wagon. After Henry's 4 sons, Henry Jr., Sammy, Fritz, and Joe, joined the business, it became Henry Fleury and Sons. That 1915 building is still standing. Over time, the store has become a classic country grocery, including antiques, pictures, and relics from the past on display. The store remains a Fleury family business. Today, the business is operated by 2 of Henry's grandsons. They run the store essentially the same way as their grandfather did, still offering monthly charge accounts for regular customers and delivering groceries to older and disabled folks. The Highlander Folk School was first established in 1932 in Monteagle after Dr. Lillian Johnson donated her home to the school.
She was looking for somebody to carry on her work. Miles Horton and Don West show up looking for a place to start a folk school. And she agrees to let them use her property and building that she had built for the initiation of Highlander Folk School. She said she would give it to them on a trial basis, and she would come back in a year and see how they were doing, and if she didn't like what they were doing, they would have to leave.
Founded by Miles Horton, the school began by organizing unemployed and working people and working to fight segregation. Some notable students and teachers were Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. The historic school campus is presently closed to the public as it undergoes restoration. The first home on this property was the residence of Dr. Oliver D. Mabey. After the 1925 death of Oliver's daughter-in-law, Marie, and a subsequent and protracted estate dispute with her siblings, Mrs. Irene Mabey Dickinson of Chicago, the daughter of Oliver's son Charles, gained legal control of the property for a payment of $600. Shortly after, Mrs. Dickinson demolished the original Mabey home and started construction on the present 2-story, 10-room Fieldstone Tudor Revival cottage she first called Castlewood and later Rye Mabey. In the late 1920s, local lore suggests that Alphonse, a.k.a. Scarface, Al Capone, frequented the original 1875 Mabey home. It's said that Capone came through Monteagle on a regular basis when he was traveling between Chicago and his Florida estate in Miami on the Dixie Highway. In the 1950s, the home became a restaurant operated by Clara and Tom Shoemate. During that time, Rye Mabey was renamed Claremont. In the late 1990s, the home opened as High Point, once again a restaurant in an elegant and historic setting. The home was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1997.
A huge part of that economic driver is the state parks, in particular the 3 that we have up here on the South Cumberland, that together attract over 1 million visitors a year.
Fiery Gizzard State Park is located within Grundy and Marion counties. The park is composed of more than 12,000 acres and has some of the best hiking and backcountry camping in the region. There are lots of areas to explore, including Fiery Gizzard, Denny Cove, and Grundy Lakes. The Fiery Gizzard State Park Visitor Center, located on US 41 in Monteagle, offers interpretive exhibits and provides information on each component of the park. Savage Gulf State Park, at more than 19,000 acres, features some of Tennessee's most scenic wilderness. The park offers approximately 60 miles of hiking to remarkable vistas, many waterfalls, and historical locations such as the Stagecoach Road. The Great Stone Door gets its name from a top-to-bottom crack in the cliff, resembling a door left slightly ajar. Savage Gulf has 9 backcountry campgrounds and 4 trailheads. Head of the Crow is Tennessee's 57th state park. It's located south of Suwanee in Franklin County. The park features 2 beautiful natural sandstone arches. It's also home to Lost Cove Cave, better known as Buggy Top Cave. There are great overlooks along the Sherwood Day Loop Trail, including a view to the north that is the longest view in any of this region's 3 state parks.
The main thing I tell them is they should come visit, that it's one of the most beautiful and magical areas they'll ever visit.
Beautiful, majestic, rural, rustic, relaxing, creative, challenging, and exhilarating. It's the place we call home. Thank you for taking the time to learn about our wonderful community and region. Visit our eateries, shops, schools, churches, music venues, fields, and forests, all here for us and for you. We're truly blessed, and we know you will be as well.